Welcome to the podcast Road to Inclusion from the Atlas Alliance. In this podcast series, we'll cover themes such as disability rights, disability inclusion, the empowerment of persons with disabilities, inclusive international development aid, and disability inclusive humanitarian action. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new and wonderful episode of the podcast Road to Inclusion. I'm your host, Gagan Shabra. I'm project manager for inclusion at the Atlas Alliance. And today we have a wonderful guest logging in from Greece. He's a young person with disabilities. He is 33 years old. His name is Kamil Gungor. And we're going to have a conversation about youth with disabilities as agents of change, Global Disability Summit, which is just around the corner, the Youth Summit in particular. What kind of expectations does Kamil have from that summit? What are the barriers encountered by young persons with disabilities? And how do we overcome those barriers and ensure that these individuals become agents of change? Because around the globe right now, as we speak, there are more than 200 million young people with disabilities, and a vast majority of them live in the global south. And today, I'm extremely excited to talk to Kamil about this and many more issues. But before we jump into that conversation, a little bit of description about myself. Right now, I'm wearing a black t-shirt. It's a Kurt Cobain t-shirt, a band from the United States from early 1990s, a black shirt, which is open. There's a white wall behind me and blue tinted glasses and the usual long curly hair. Kamil, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hello, Gagan. Hello. Thank you for having me. I am well. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to hear your voice from Greece, Athens. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Shiny Athens.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Kamil, before we jump into all those interesting conversations which everybody wants to hear from you and your take on things, why don't you just describe yourself briefly?
Yes, of course. So, I am a white disabled man. I sit on an electric wheelchair. Part of it is visible. Behind me there is a bookcase with a lot of books ordered in a color way. There is also a little bit of a map visible and a window. And I am wearing a burgundy top, a burgundy shirt, burgundy color shirt.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Tell me.
And I have short hair. Since you mentioned your rich hair, I am the totally opposite.
So we are complementing each other in this podcast. That is wonderful, you know. Diversity is our strength, right, Kamil?
Exactly.
Wonderful. I just want to ask you, you mentioned that there are books in the backdrop, like I hope there are these books from philosophy and Socrates, since we are talking about Greece.
Well, I think the closer to Greek philosophy in the bookcase behind me is Mythos from Stephen Fry, who is a comedian from England. So not really Greek philosophy behind me. I have it in another bookcase.
I love Stephen Fry. His books on heroes are also fantastic. But before we go into that direction, let us circle back and talk a little bit more about your background, Kamil. You mentioned you are on a wheelchair, you're 33 years old. Just flesh out your biography for us, please.
Yes, of course. So, yeah, I am of Polish origin and a bit of Turkish. And my parents met in Greece. So I was born in Athens, Greece, where I grew up. And Greek is the language I speak better. And I studied communication, media, and culture in Athens. So basically, I call myself journalist by profession. But today I am working in the disability movement and especially in the independent living movement for the European Network on Independent Living, which is based in Brussels. But I work remotely. And of course, I'm visiting Brussels often. I have a quite experience on volunteering before that also. I was volunteering in Belgium for 6 months for the independent living movement, and this is how my journey started in these things. And today I'm also involved with the work of the European Disability Forum. I am the chair of the Youth Committee, and I recently joined also the Youth Committee of the International Disability Alliance. So there is a lot about youth, about disability. And and on my free time, I am also a travel blogger. I think I am the only disabled travel blogger in Greece. And this is something I really enjoy.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you mentioned about ENIL, European Network on Independent Living. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, independent living and the European Network, as well as why did you get involved into all these disability movement?
Yes, thank you. This is a very interesting story because when I was younger, I didn't want to have any relationship with disability stuff. I saw other disabled people, older than me, doing disability activism and joining associations and stuff. And I said, this is the cliche, and I want to be mainstream, to do something, for me, like, I don't know, to be involved with sports or with traveling or with culture, literature. I also like chess, things like that. So when I studied journalism, my idea was to do, I don't know, sport journalism or this kind of things. And, people in the university were telling me, oh, good, Camille, you are studying journalism, you will be able to raise your voice on disability issues. And I was like, no, thank you, I'm not interested in that. But in 2013, a good friend of mine, Stelios Kibouropoulos, who is now a disabled member of the European Parliament, came and asked me if I wanted to join a trip, the Greek delegation for the Freedom Drive, which is a conference that ENIL, the European Network on Independent Living, is organizing every 2 years. And if I wanted to join this team and to travel to Strasbourg at that time, and I said, of course, yes, this was a unique opportunity. So we went there. We met disabled people across Europe, all over Europe, from Serbia to Norway and from Spain to, to Ireland. So, and we saw what it means to have independent living, things that we don't really know in Greece. We had no really idea about personal assistance, about the institutionalization. And we realized that this is super important and we need to do something on that if we want to live with choice and control over our life. So we came back to Greece. We created the Independent Living Organization of Greece, iLiving, which I am the chair at the moment. And we started slowly to fight for independent living, for our rights, for choice and control. And the involvement with the Greek Independent Living organization brought me to the European Network on Independent Living because I wanted to learn more and, to make connections. So I volunteered for them in, 6 years ago, almost. And, one brought the other. After the volunteering, there was a job opening and I applied for the European Network. And I started working on that. And from the European Network, I got in touch with the European Disability Forum. So, it's like a domino. Once you get to the disability movement, you don't get out. You are disabled activist or 24 hours. I mean, even if you don't work officially, you are thinking about it. It's a mentality.
So you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Exactly.
Got it. Wow. No, that's a great explanation of how you switched. At one point, you said that you did not want to associate yourself with the cliche disability journalism or talking about disabled issues. And now here you are promoting independent living, talking about choice and control. And you mentioned in that intervention about personal assistance. And I want to explicate that a little bit because it's so important for the rest of the audience to hear this, that young people with disabilities are often seen through a lens of paternalism. They are seen as childlike, they're seen as asexual, they're seen as dependent, and they're seen as individuals who have to be taken care of or coddled either by the families, communities, or by the state. And that's why the question of independent living becomes so crucial. What do you think about that?
Yes, I totally agree. Everything you said is a very big truth. And, when the independent living movement started. It started from young people, from students in USA, in university, who wanted, to study and to be on equal level with others. And, they created afterwards the Center for Independent Living, and the movement went, international and all over the world. Our Greek organization began with young people. Other organizations also began with young people. So we are kind of the drivers of change. And, because independent living in the disability movement in general is kind of an innovative thing. Usually we were used to, to the medical model, to the PT model that, this is the life, it is how it is. We are sick or whatever, we need care. But, some young people, thought, no, this is not how it should work. And, they brought this radical idea. Even today, sometimes the independent living movement is considered a bit radical in a few things. And, yeah, they brought it to the discussion. They started, to believe in it. And nowadays, as you said, there is still, a gap. We see a lot of disability organizations being, let me call it, elderly organizations. If you go to board meetings and things like that, most of the people are elderly, and young generation is quite, a small percentage. So we are still fighting for our place and trying to prove that, we are here, we are capable, we deserve to have choice and control over our lives, like the young peers without disabilities have. And yeah, I think there is a good and evolution, and there is a lot of steps taken to the good direction. So I am positive. The thing is that, okay, change is happening, but it's slow. And do we have time to waste 1 or 2 generations, at least until we are in the level we want? Or we should push more? I think we should push more.
Yes, you're right about how young people are the captains of their ship, and they should be drivers of inclusive change. And just to put things into perspective for the broader audience, what you were mentioning, Camille, that this independent living movement has come out from the United States. In 60s, there was a gentleman, the late, great Ed Roberts, who wanted to go and study at Berkeley. And he was told that how could he study? He's so disabled. He should not be studying. And he fought for his rights. And he got a chance to finish his degree there. And that's when the independent living movement took off. And of course, if people have not watched the movie Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution with Judy Heumann, the amazing Neil Jacobson and Denise Jacobson, and the individuals who are involved from the United States who sparked the independent living movement, they should definitely do that. And they all were young individuals. They all wanted to bring the change, be the change which they wanted to see in the world. So what you said, Camille, is so important and so poignant. Thank you for mentioning that we have to kind of push for change ourselves as young individuals. If I may ask you, from your perspective, what are the crucial barriers encountered by young people with disabilities?
Well, we can talk about barriers all the day. Our world is kind of barriers and oppression. But of course, as I said, there is also change and good things happening. So what I would highlight, some of the main barriers I personally feel is, okay, our voice is not heard as much as it should, probably, even though, we see a lot of good initiatives nowadays, like even the Global Disability Youth Summit we'll discuss later. It's positive. It shows the need of that. We are not adequately involved sometimes in the decision making, in, the boards of organizations. We are, just observers or, just participants. Of course, not always, but that's a general, idea. We are considered immature, inexperienced. As I said, the organizations are elderly at the moment. There is also, I think, if we can build a little bit like, make it like a domino, then we start from education. In many countries, we have segregating education, special schools. you don't grow you don't grow with your non-disabled peers. They don't grow with disabled peers, and this is negative for both sides and for the society in the end. Then, after segregating schools, you go to, maybe you want to volunteer a bit or to go to work, and this often is unpaid because, when you are young and disabled, you don't have experience and you are not considered very capable usually. So, we are not valued the way we should. Often we are asked to do stuff, to participate, to bring the expertise we might have, the lived experience, but we are not compensated for that because we are considered that we were grateful just to participate there, and we don't, we're not treated in the way other people are treated. And then, you want to apply for a job, but it's difficult because there is experience requirements, like 5 years of experience or 3 years of experience. And of course, as a young person, you don't have it. And if you are a young disabled person, it might be even more difficult. So, there is this kind of things. Then, funding is always an issue. Funding for youth initiatives, for youth organizations. But nowadays we see more and more of this. I would like also to stress the importance of, as I said, independent living and institutionalization. This is a constant threat. And, sometimes we don't get personal assistance and the support we need because we are considered that we will get support from our families. But this is not, how it should be. Climate change, for me, is a very important barrier because it's something that will affect the future, which is us, the young people. So we are also the catalyst for climate change. And I think this is an urgent issue we should discuss and tackle. And young disabled people are very often, disabled people in general are among the first to be in trouble when there is climate issues like floods or fires or things because, societies are not adapted to have emergency which is accessible and inclusive. So things like that, I think, are affecting young disabled people. But I still believe, I want to, on a positive note, that things are improving.
Yeah, as you rightly said, that we could talk about the barriers still that cows come home. There's no way in which we could stop talking about the barriers because there's just so many of them. And as you pointed out, right from education, which is segregated in special schools, to labor markets, which are not inclusive, which are exclusionary, which are supposed to be open but are closed, which fosters discrimination, kind of promotes it, and pushes out young people with disabilities and ensures that these people don't end up having jobs. Employers discriminate against young people. All of these are major, major challenges. But one thing which I want to pick your brain on from all those barriers is you mentioned about elderly organizations, lack of voice, and funding issues for the youth organizations. Do you want to linger a little bit on these three issues? What do you mean about these three topics?
So, elderly organizations, I already discussed a little bit on that. When you have these disability organizations and, you see their boards or you go, to their events, there is very often, that the people who are in position are usually elderly or from the previous generation who we owe a lot to them. They fought for our rights and they brought the change. They definitely are good experts. But you see people being there 15, 20 years in these positions and not bringing new blood to the pot. And this is a problem because you need to build also the next generation. And how will you do that if you don't, trust the new generation? Don't bring it, you don't give your place. I see myself, I am my 5th year as chair of the Youth Committee of the European Disability Forum, and I don't plan to reapply, even if technically I think I would be eligible, because I think it's time for the next generation, to take the opportunities, more and more people to be involved. I will be there to support, of course, but I think we should step up sometimes and give as much place to the newer voices. I am 33, so I barely consider myself young anymore. So I think what I try to do is, to give place to young people. So that was on the elderly organizations. I mean, we have young youth organizations more and more. This is positive. Of course, as you said, the other issue was funding. Funding is important. There is some donors who consider funding youth opportunities, and this is fantastic. But there is a little bit more needs to be done, or maybe on a structural way, on bureaucratic way, so we don't have to, I don't know. If you want to have a youth organization to have to fill unlimited paperwork, or, to fulfill, I don't know, so many conditions, or, to make our life a little bit easier so we can focus more on our advocacy, on our rights, and not on how we will deal, with the technical stuff. So things like that, I think, could be helpful. And what was the other thing you asked me to focus? I admit I forgot.
No, we talked about the intergenerational inclusivity as well as the funding issues with regards to the youth organization. So that is fantastic. I wanted to say something to you that I would differ with you on only one aspect in the previous intervention. You said you are 33 and you don't consider yourself young. I'm 35 and I'm considering myself too young.
Well, it's how you feel. It's not what is on your paper, I think.
So age is a state of mind.
Exactly, age is a state of mind, and in that way we both feel young people.
Absolutely.
But if you see Erasmus, for example, it says 30 years. So I mean, So sometimes the definition is kind of, a limit.
Yes, and this definition of who is a young person also varies across different contexts, different geographies, different historical periods. For instance, in Norway, if you go to some disability organizations like the Norwegian Association of the Disabled, the youth section, they consider individuals below 36 as youth, while other organizations, as you said, consider those who are below 30 as youth. So the important thing is about bringing the dynamism, bringing the new blood, learning from the elders, those individuals who have shown us the way to build a strong disability rights movement and take it to the next level.
Yes, and please allow me a very quick comment, because I want to be fair. As I said, we owe a lot in our lives to the previous generation, and these are the pioneers, our role models. And of course, the ageism is a big issue nowadays. So not only youth issues, but we know that elderly also face a lot of issues and a lot of discrimination, from employment to personal assistance. There is personal assistance schemes in Europe that give assistance to people until 65, and afterwards you are considered to go, I don't know, to care to elderly home or something. So there is a lot of things that we need also to address for the elderly, and I believe in cooperation between the intergenerational cooperation, as you said. All together we can shape a better future, and everyone is needed. No one should be excluded.
Absolutely. So as Newton rightly said, that we stand on the shoulders of giants like Ed Roberts and Judy Heumann and individuals from the European sphere who ended up changing the history, and those working in the global south who ended up changing the history of the disability rights movement across the globe. Very, very, very important. So if I may ask you, there are a lot of barriers with regards to education, inclusive employment, healthcare access to independent living opportunities. What, in your assessment, are the institutional enablers, the support mechanisms, the factors which help you or individuals who are young people with disabilities to circumnavigate these barriers, to circumscribe these barriers, and to lead a fulfilling life?
Well, there is a lot of things we cannot say again. I mean, this is my thing. So I will start again with the independent living philosophy, with the support, no matter of your impairment. If you get the right support, personal assistance, assistive devices, the technology you need, then you are starting, one step forward from otherwise. In the inclusive education is a starting point as well, because it will lead to a societal change, and it will enable everyone, disabled and non-disabled, to think in an inclusive way, not in a special way. We don't want special spaces in the trains or special waiting places in the airports. We want, to be all together, and with inclusive design for all. So I think this is starting from education. When you see disabled people around, and this means that you will later, when you will become an architect or a teacher, you will think, when you will have this in mind. And also for disabled people, we will be more empowered, and we will feel, nowadays a lot of disabled people, because of the special education and the segregated environments, feel, how to say it, feel a little bit. Sometimes there is people who feel incapable or, less capable, and that they should try twice or 3 times more, or, because, to prove that they are capable. And, but if we grow all together, we'll understand that we have an equal value with each other, and we are, parts of equal parts of the puzzles. So, inclusive education is an enabler, personal assistance and assistive technology, funding, as I said, for youth opportunities, for us to shine. There is amazing initiatives from young disabled people from any area you can imagine, from fashion to, inclusive fashion, to sports, how to make, equipment better, technology, robotics, coding, a lot of stuff. So these things, if we get the funding and the access to these opportunities, we can shine together with everyone else. I also value a lot European initiatives like Erasmus, because this is an enabler that helps a lot of people and, changes our lives. Personally, I did an 6-month Erasmus in Belgium 5 years ago, and this changed my life. Even the fact that I am talking today with you is thanks to my volunteering 6 years ago, and the fact that I was given funding to have personal assistance and transport and everything. So all these things are the ones that can change the societies. And of course, the families are always on our, are a practical enabler. We need families on our side, and we need also to think about them. Sometimes, there is some misunderstandings and some overprotection. It can lead to some unfortunate areas, which I don't want to mention probably now. But families in general are very crucial to our involvement, and in my case and in many other cases, we owe a lot to our families. But I think government should take a little bit of the shoulders of our families and of our parents, and to so they can have their own life, be the parents and not our assistants, be our, brothers and sisters, our boyfriends and girlfriends, and not our carers, our assistants, because this is how it should be. And then, there is no toxicity, and it becomes, I think, it's more healthy.
Absolutely. No, and the thing which you are raising is so crucial, that if we want to lead a fulfilling life as a young person with disability, the society around us has to accept the fact that this young person is young person, and he or she has desires, aspirations, expectations like any other young person, to play sports, to have education, to go into employment, to do volunteering, to have meaningful relationships, to have girlfriends and boyfriends and partners and families. These are common human aspirations, and young people have those aspirations as well. And it's so important to kind of foster these aspirations through institutional support structures, as you mentioned, like Erasmus, inclusive laws, so that there could be personal assistance which could be provided in case if it's required, assistive tools and technologies which could be provided in case it's required, and accommodations could be made. so that young people with disabilities lead lives as young people. Yes. Wonderful. So, on that note, when you said about families and about the expectations that you were just discussing some moments ago, what are your expectations from the Global Disability Summit? There is a day for young persons with disabilities. It's 14th of February. What are your expectations from that day?
Yes, thank you for this question. Actually, I'm looking forward to that. To both events, the main Global Disability Summit and the Youth Disability Summit, which, by the way, I will moderate a session on mental health and disability, and a lot of my friends will be among the speakers. I think it's a fantastic initiative. It's a great opportunity for disabled youth around the globe, because it's all over the globe. It's a whole day event, which is divided kind of like continent wise. So, there's a section for Africa, section for Asia, section for Europe, and so on. And, to come out together to bring our experiences on the table, to share our concerns, to be heard. This is very important. We will be listened and will be heard by a lot of people, hopefully by policymakers. And, we will be there to demand change, to demand our rights. And I am very happy that this is happening and that I am involved in that.
If I may ask you, you said to be heard and to demand for our rights. Very crucial. What are your rights? Or what kind of demands are you going to make to the policymakers, multilateral agencies, the donors, the governments who would be listening to you?
So, first of all, let me say it. I mean, this is maybe, a cliche, but it's true. There is no special rights. Human rights are not special. We have all the same rights. So this is what we will demand, to have the same range of opportunities and of life with everyone else. So we will demand, to get the support we need, the opportunities we need to, to participate on equal level with others, to have choice and control in our lives. And of course, there will be demands on specific issues, from education to climate change to everything. I am sure that, these things you will see in a few days. I don't want to spoil very much, but nice things are coming. Then, regarding your question about our demands to the governments and to the other in power, then one thing I would like to say, something I mentioned earlier, is don't do special things for disabled people, but mainstream disability in everything, include us in everything, make us part of your work, of your governing strategies, and after that, so you will not need to do things for disabled people. You will do things for everyone, because it will be, you will have the mentality and the understanding which will be all inclusive. Of course, I will, if I had the power to demand something from the government, I would say close down the institution now, free our people, give the support for those who need it. And for the donors, because I think you asked specifically also about donors. Donors is a tricky question because we need them. Everyone needs them. I mean, everyone needs money. That's a universal truth. But we need also to make sure that this money, this funding, is going to the right direction. No, it's not going to charity, for example. It's not going to segregating facilities. That the donors are not funding nice institutions who are supporting the poor disabled people who don't have family, but they are supporting initiatives for independent living, for example. So to donors, my message is, please continue to do your wonderful work. We really appreciate that. But gear your work and your efforts to human rights, to inclusion, and ask disabled people, where would they find useful this funding, to which direction. Hope it makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that enriching and wide ranging answer. And it's so important to kind of explicate this to the rest of the audience, members who are listening to it. The Global Disability Summit will take place from 14th to 17th February. 14th February is the Youth Day, which you were mentioning. It's going to be 24 hours almost, starting. It will be a digital event starting in the Far East in the Asia Pacific region, moving towards Asia, then MENA, Middle East, North Africa, Europe, and then moving from there to Africa region as well as the Americas. And there is a document called as Call for Action, which we are preparing.
Exactly.
Have you heard of it?
I didn't want to spoil that.
Go for it. Do you want to spoil it a little bit for our give a sneak peek of that document?
Yes, there is indeed. There is a document which will be a summary, let's say, of our points for action, of our, let's say, key commitments, key demands. I don't know, phrase it anyway you feel it's better. And young disabled people are involved in that all over the world. And it will be also in different formats. It will be in written format. It will be in audiovisual format. I think so. And yeah, nice things are happening. And I hope that this will be a good stepping stone for change, and will not be just a document to be there, but it will be used and and yeah, I'm positive it will happen.
Absolutely. And it's so important to stress this, that this document will be presented at the Global Disability Summit. So the point which you were making, Kamil, to be heard by the policymakers, by the government, by the donors, by the multilateral agencies would be fulfilled, because this is going to be exciting. And this document has come out of broad-based consultation. It has come out based on the survey which was done. Thousands of people responded to that survey, more than 1,000 people, and they talked about what are the major priority areas. And some of the themes is what Kamil has already mentioned, right from employment to education to independent living to assistive tools and technologies to climate change. And it'll be something which will be quite exciting and will infuse enthusiasm, energy, and the young blood into the disability movement moving forward. So, Kamil, if I could ask you one specific outcome which you want from the Youth Summit to come out, what would that be? One specific outcome. Give me the one which is the most close to your heart, and it cannot be independent living.
Okay, so now you are already cutting an easy question, an easy answer from my side. Yeah, okay, but that's still, yeah, I would say that, yeah, is that if we can, probably the involvement of disabled people in the mainstreaming of disability in everything, the mainstreaming, this is the word. So to have in the future policies that we will not need anymore use disability summits, but disability will be a core factor of, whatever summits are out there on technology, on education, on whatever, and we will, be present and on equal basis and co-design and in a co-design and co-production way. So yeah, I think mainstreaming disability would be one of the things I would like to see.
Well, that's a fantastic intervention, because it's so important to talk about mainstreaming and inclusion, and that should be part of all kind of policies, projects, programs, products, services, systems which are built to cater to human beings. Because at the end of the day, disability is a cross-cutting theme. Doesn't matter your race, gender, sexual orientation, your nationality, your linguistic preference, you could be disabled. So if you're thinking about building a product, and if you think about making sure that that product is going to the mainstream population, then you better build a product which is universally designed. If you're thinking about a summit which is going to talk about human rights, then you make sure that there's a dimension of disability when you're talking about human rights. If you're thinking about having a project linked to the climate change, it is so crucial to talk about persons with disabilities, because what you said, young people with disabilities or persons with disabilities are one of the most marginalized and are often forgotten when it comes to humanitarian crisis or natural crisis. So that is very, very important.
And if I may, very quickly, I'm sorry for jumping in. But what I thought when you asked the question was the COP26, I think, and the accessibility issues they had and the disability involvement they had. We had, for example, for a minister who was not able to participate because he was disabled,
Yes.
or we didn't see sign language or captioning in many of the sessions. So these things are unacceptable in 2022 and 2021. I mean, because it was 2021, I think. So these things. I mean, I hope to see being things of the past, and that we are moving to a more inclusive and accessible society.
Oh, absolutely. You are hitting the nail on its head. This minister was from Israel, went to COP, wanted to support the COP and talk about how climate change is so important issue, such a burning issue, and how it should be tackled. And he was not able to participate. And that is a huge embarrassment. And that's why we need to talk about building coalitions across different social movements, the gender movement, the racial justice movement, the climate justice movement, the indigenous rights movement, and to talk about how disability cross-cuts all those movements and is part of that. And young people with disabilities like yourself, Camille, have to be those agents of change who bring this change to inclusive change to the societies. If I may ask you one quick thing, how do you want to make sure that young people with disabilities become agents of change? If you have a piece of advice for young people, because you mentioned that you feel a little old, right?
Well, old. Okay. I mean, I don't.
I'm just pulling your leg, Camille.
Yeah. No, in mind I feel young. In paper I feel marginally young. So if one thing how to, I had to want to say one thing, it would be that I already said it. I mean, I will repeat myself, but I think this is crucial. Being involved, be active, be on the tables, be there. Don't wait for others. Don't wait for others to do the things for you. Be there so that you are there, that you can be proud, strong, and visible. This is very important. This is the motto of ENIL, the European Network on Independent Living, by the way, proud, strong, and visible. And it's close to my heart. I think it's very important. I remember a small, very quick story. A friend of mine was working, a disabled friend, a wheelchair user, was working with his dog every day, because the dogs have natural needs. So he was taking the dog out and, to do the needs. And there was a person opening a restaurant, a cafeteria, I don't know, in the neighborhood. And he said, my friend, I see you live here and I see you every day. I want to make sure that my place is accessible. What should I do? He saw this person and he wanted to make it inclusive and accessible. So it's important we are visible. But don't take me wrong. For me, it's also important to say that, it's important to be visible and active, but we shouldn't forget for those who cannot be visible and active because of the barriers and of the oppressions. People in institutions, very crucial. People in rural areas. People who are, their rights are violated for many other factors. For these people, we have the duty, I would say, at least this is what I feel for myself, to try to as much as possible to raise their voice. Of course, we are not them. I cannot claim I am the person, in institution or I speak for them, but at least to try to bring those people, in light, to shine light on them and, if possible, to involve them in any way, to reach them. This is very important for me, and I want to make a statement here that we shouldn't forget about those who don't have the luck and they are not in the elite of the movements like we are. Because me and you at the moment, if we want to be honest, we are kind of the elite. Not every disabled person have the access and the luck and the opportunities we got in our lives to be today here and discuss these high-level things. And I feel grateful for that, but I feel also the responsibility.
Absolutely. So to whom much is given, much is expected. And you're spot on when it comes to the fact that we are privileged, that we have a lot of institutional enablers supporting us. We have a lot of individuals who cheer for us. We have a lot of resources dedicated to discuss these issues, important issues. And that's why it becomes incumbent on us to make sure that out of these 200 million young people with disabilities who are around the globe, and 80% of them coming from the global south, we get a chance to kind of foreground their perspectives, be good allies, make them shine, and ensure that their voices are getting heard. And I think with the Youth Summit, we will have that opportunity to hear perspectives from the rural parts, from individuals who were perhaps in institutions, from individuals who are coming from different socioeconomic background, different types of disabilities from all across the globe. And that's why it becomes truly representative. Thank you so much, Kamil, for this. And what you mentioned, very crucial, be heard, be at the tables, make sure that you are visible, you're strong, and you feel a sense of pride in the fact that you have a disability. Because after all, you're a young person with a disability, and young people are supposed to be exuberant, optimistic, change makers of the future, and those who hold the present to account. So, Kamil, one last point. If you have to talk about an anecdote or hobby which you have not shared widely with the rest of the globe, which is beyond your work when it comes to being this young person with disability and being this agent of change, what would that be?
Oh, I mean, there is a lot of such memories in my life, which I value, and I remember when in trouble, or when I just want to remember something nice and cheer myself, from having a dinner with a native Indian. I mean, not Indian. Indian is the Greek word. Native, American. How you call it in English? These people who are coming from the indigenous people. Exactly.
Yeah, because like if I may just say, back in the day, 500 years ago, Columbus made a mistake. He wanted to find India, or found Americas, quote unquote, and then we are still continuing with that mistake.
Yeah, and in Greece, we call this in Greek, we call this Native Americans Indians. So that's why I got mistake. But yeah, because he was looking for India. But we had a dinner with Greek food, and it was a nice experience for both me and for him, because for him it was unusual, the experience, and for me, I learned a lot from such a person. Another nice anecdote was when I was volunteering for a Lady Gaga concert, which is something it's not happening every day. And then you get a free ticket to the concert after you finish with helping people, because my role was to sit out of the stadium and to guide people, to their gates, because it's a huge stadium. Of course, there were people asking, where is, the street, or where is the mall, which is okay. There's always random people asking random stuff. But okay, after 2 or 3 hours working on that, we were all let free and enjoyed Lady Gaga. She was fantastic. And yeah, so this kind of things, or from my traveling, a lot of experiences, I traveled to see a cycling event, which you say in Greece, this is so unusual. People don't watch cycling here. I got the cycling virus when I did Erasmus in Belgium, where it's national sport. So now I'm even traveling and spending money to watch cycling. I'm considering crazy probably in my country. But okay, that's nice.
So right from sharing a meal with an indigenous person, Greek meal, to Lady Gaga concert volunteering, to cycling, you lead a very rich life. And I'm very happy to make your acquaintance. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was really nice talking to you. And if I may say, 14th of February, to all the audience members, mark that date. Go check out the website, the Instagram pages of GDS Youth. Check out their hashtags about the 200 million young people with disabilities. Engage with the young people with disabilities, because these individuals are the present and they will be the future of the disability movement. And we need strong, resilient, resourceful agents of change like Kamil. Thank you, Kamil.
Thanks a lot, Gagan. Thanks a lot. Yes, people join us. So let's work together for a better future. And don't miss the next episode of this fantastic podcast. It was an honor to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care, Kamil. Bye-bye from now.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this podcast episode. I hope you found this conversation engaging, enlightening, and a little bit entertaining. And if yes, then I hope you get a chance to follow the other episodes as well. And please subscribe and share the podcast series Road to Inclusion.